The boardroom erupted in laughter. Hyun-seok stood at the head of the mahogany table, his jaw tight, hands clenched at his sides. The men in expensive suits whispered behind their hands, their eyes glinting with satisfaction at watching the once untouchable Korean billionaire fall from grace. "Bankrupt," one of them said loud enough for everyone to hear. The great Hyun-seok, brought down by his own arrogance. "Maybe you should go back to Seoul with your tail between your legs," another added, smirking. Hyun-seok's dark eyes swept across the room, cold and unflinching despite the humiliation burning in his chest. He said nothing. What could he say? The numbers didn't lie. His company had crashed. $300 million gone in 6 months. His investors were pulling out. His reputation was in ruins. As he walked out of the building into the gray Chicago afternoon, his phone buzzed with another notification. Another news article about his downfall. Another former colleague distancing themselves from him. He climbed into the back of what used to be his private car, but was now just a basic sedan, the only vehicle he could afford to keep. "Where to, sir?" his driver asked quietly. "The office," Hyun-seok muttered. "What's left of it?" The penthouse office was empty now. Most of his staff had resigned or been laid off. The space that once buzzed with activity felt like a tomb. Hyun-seok walked through the quiet halls, each step echoing his failure. Then he saw her. Kalani sat at her desk in the outer office, her dark fingers flying across the keyboard. She hadn't left. Everyone else had abandoned ship. But his secretary was still there, working like nothing had changed. "Why are you here?" he asked, his voice rougher than he intended. Kalani looked up, her brown eyes steady and calm. She wore a simple black dress that somehow made her look more powerful than any of those men in their designer suits. Her natural hair was pulled back in a low bun, a few coils framing her face. "I work here," she said simply. "I can't pay you." "I know." "Then why?" She stood up, gathering a stack of files. "Because everyone else sees a sinking ship. I see a man who built an empire once and can do it again." She walked past him into his office, placing the files on his desk. "But not if you keep feeling sorry for yourself." Hyun-seok felt anger flash through him. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't I?" Kalani turned to face him, her voice sharp now. "I grew up in Southside Chicago. My mother cleaned houses for rich people who treated her like she was invisible. My father worked 3 jobs and still couldn't keep the lights on sometimes. You lost money. I've lived without it my entire life. So no, I don't feel sorry for you. But I do see potential." He stared at her, really looked at her for the first time since she'd started working for him 8 months ago. He'd hired her because she was efficient, professional, and didn't ask unnecessary questions. He'd never noticed the fire in her eyes or the steel in her voice. "What are you proposing?" he asked quietly. "Give me 3 months. Let me work on something. If it fails, we both walk away. If it works, you give me 20% equity in whatever comes next." 20%? He almost laughed. "That's insane." "Is it? What do you have to lose that you haven't already lost?" She had him there. Hyun-seok looked at the files on his desk, then back at Kalani. 3 months, he agreed. "But you work for equity only. No salary." "Deal." They shook hands, her palm warm against his. For just a moment, something passed between them, something neither acknowledged. The next morning, Kalani arrived at 6. Hyun-seok was already there, having barely slept. She found him staring at financial reports, dark circles under his eyes. "We're not focusing on the past," she said, setting down 2 cups of coffee. "We're building something new." "With what money?" "With what you actually have left. Stop thinking like a billionaire. Think like someone starting from the bottom." Over the next week, Kailani worked 16-hour days. She researched markets, made calls, and created presentations. Hyun-seok watched her, fascinated despite himself. She moved through the world with a confidence he'd lost. While he'd been drowning in shame, she'd been planning. "Here," she said one night, placing a proposal in front of him. "Sustainable tech for underserved communities. solar panels and water purification systems. Low cost, high impact. The market is hungry for it, and it's something that actually matters. Hyun-seok read through her work. It was brilliant, comprehensive, passionate. This needs investors. We have none. Wrong. We have people who believe in impact over profit. I've already reached out to 3 environmental funds and 2 social impact groups. They want to meet. They know about my bankruptcy? Yes. I was honest. I told them you'd made mistakes, but that you were ready to build something that mattered instead of just something that made money. He looked at her, something shifting in his chest. You have more faith in me than I deserve. I don't have faith in you, Kalani said bluntly. I have faith in this idea. You just happen to have the knowledge to execute it. Her words should have stung, but instead they motivated him. She wasn't here because she liked him or pitied him. She was here because she saw an opportunity. That was clearer, cleaner, safer. The first investor meeting was a disaster. The moment Hyun-seok walked in, he could see the judgment in their eyes. They asked condescending questions, barely listened to the pitch, and dismissed them within 20 minutes. In the car afterward, Hyun-seok slammed his hand against the dashboard. This is pointless. No one will trust me again. Then I'll do the talking, Kalani said. You? Me? You're a liability right now. Your name carries shame, mine carries nothing. That's an advantage. He wanted to argue, but she was right. Pride had destroyed him once already. The next meeting, Kalani led the presentation. She spoke with passion and precision, her voice filling the room. She didn't apologize for Hyun-seok's past. She didn't make excuses. She simply presented a vision of what they could build together. We're not asking you to invest in who we were, she said, her eyes moving across each person at the table. We're asking you to invest in who we're becoming, in what this can do for communities that have been ignored and exploited, in real change. The room was silent when she finished. Then, slowly, the lead investor nodded. Send us the detailed financials. We want to discuss this further. In the elevator down, Hyun-seok felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. You were incredible, he said quietly. Kalani smiled, just a small curve of her lips. I know. The second month was harder. They got commitments from 2 smaller investors, but it wasn't enough. They needed more capital. Kalani worked until she was exhausted, making calls during the day and rebuilding financial models at night. Hyun-seok found her asleep at her desk more than once, her face pressed against spreadsheets. One night, he draped his jacket over her shoulders. She stirred, blinking up at him in the dim office light. What time is it? She mumbled. 3 a.m. Go home, Kalani. Can't. Need to finish this. It can wait. No, it can't. We're running out of time. Hyun-seok sat down across from her. Why are you doing this? Really? Kalani was quiet for a long moment. Because I'm tired of watching people like you waste opportunities people like me never get. You had everything and threw it away on ego and greed. Now you have a chance to do something that actually matters, and I'll be damned if I let you waste that too. Is that all? What else would there be? He didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because lately, he'd been noticing things he shouldn't. The way she bit her lip when she was concentrating. The sound of her laugh on the rare occasions she let herself relax. The graceful strength in how she moved through the world. Go home, he said again, softer this time. Please. She gathered her things slowly, and as she walked past him, she paused. Don't stay too late either. I need you sharp tomorrow. After she left, Hyun-seok sat in the empty office, her words echoing in his mind. I need you. Such simple words, but they'd been spoken with such casual intimacy that they'd landed in his chest like a stone dropping into still water. He was in dangerous territory, and he knew it. The breakthrough came in the 3rd month. A major environmental investment firm agreed to lead a funding round, $10 million. It was a fraction of what Hyun-seok used to handle, but it was enough. Enough to start. Enough to prove the concept. When Kalani got the email confirmation, she stood up from her desk, her hands shaking. Hyun-seok came out of his office, having received the same message. They stared at each other across the empty space. "We did it," she whispered. "You did it." Kaylani shook her head. "We did it." For a moment, Hyun-seok forgot every rule, every boundary, every reason this was complicated. He crossed the space between them and pulled her into his arms. She stiffened for just a second, then melted against him, her face pressed against his chest. "Thank you," he said into her hair. "Thank you for not giving up." Kalani pulled back, looking up at him. They were so close he could count the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. "Don't thank me yet. Now the real work starts." She stepped away, and the loss of her warmth felt like a physical ache. The company launched 3 months later. They called it Revive Solutions. The media coverage was mixed. Some praised the pivot to social impact. Others mocked Hyun-seok's attempt at redemption. But the work spoke for itself. Their solar panels started appearing in rural communities. Their water systems saved lives. And slowly, the company grew. Kalani worked as the chief operating officer, her 20% equity making her a real partner in the business. She was ruthless in negotiations, compassionate with their teams, and brilliant in strategy. The press started calling her the woman who resurrected a failed billionaire. She hated the phrase. "I didn't resurrect anyone," she told a reporter coldly. "I built a company. Stop giving him credit for my work." She was right. This was as much her creation as his. More, even. But as the company succeeded, the tension between them grew. They spent nearly every waking hour together. Late nights reviewing contracts, early mornings meeting with partners, dinners that were supposed to be about business, but felt increasingly personal. "You should smile more," he told her one evening as they reviewed quarterly projections. "Why? So I seem more approachable?" Kalani didn't look up from her laptop. "I'm not here to be likable. I'm here to be effective." "I meant because you look beautiful when you smile." Her fingers stopped typing. Slowly, she raised her eyes to his. "Don't." "Don't what?" "Don't cross that line, Hyun-seok. We're business partners. That's all." "Is it?" "It has to be." Her voice was firm, but he saw the way her hand trembled slightly. "You know what happens when women like me get involved with men like you? I become a scandal, a distraction. The black secretary who slept her way to success. Everything I've built gets reduced to a stereotype." Hyun-seok felt her words like a slap. "I would never let anyone say that about you. You couldn't stop them, and I won't give them ammunition." She closed her laptop. "I'm going home. We'll discuss this quarter's numbers tomorrow." After she left, Hyun-seok sat alone in his office, her words replaying in his mind. She wasn't wrong. The world would be cruel to them. To her especially. His own family back in Korea would be horrified. His mother had been calling more frequently now that the company was succeeding, already hinting about appropriate marriage prospects from respectable Korean families. The thought of marrying anyone but Kilani made him feel hollow. 6 months later, Revive Solutions hit a major milestone, $50 million in revenue. The company was being called one of the most successful social impact startups in the country. Investors who'd mocked Hyun-seok were now calling, wanting back in. They celebrated with the whole team, renting out a restaurant in downtown Chicago. Hyun-seok watched Kalani move through the crowd, laughing with employees, her natural warmth on full display. She wore a deep purple dress that hugged her curves, and more than one person couldn't stop staring at her. Including him. "You should tell her how you feel," said Marcus, their CFO, appearing beside Hyun-seok. "I don't know what you're talking about." Marcus laughed. "Man, everyone knows. The way you look at her. The way she pretends not to notice how you look at her. It's painful to watch. It's complicated. Everything worth having is complicated." Later that night, after most people had left, Hyun-seok found Kalani on the restaurant's balcony, looking out at the city lights. "Tired of celebrating?" he asked, joining her. "Just needed air. It's overwhelming sometimes. A year ago, I was making $35,000 a year as a secretary. Now I'm a millionaire on paper." She shook her head. "Doesn't feel real." "You earned every bit of it." "Did I?" Or did I just get lucky that my boss went bankrupt at the exact moment I was brave enough to take a risk? Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. You were prepared. You saw the opportunity. That's not luck, Kalani. That's vision. She turned to look at him, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. Why do you do that? Do what? Make me feel like I'm more than I am. I don't. I just see you clearly. Hyun-suk moved closer. Drawn by gravity, he couldn't resist. The whole world sees you clearly now. You're on magazine covers, speaking at conferences, being called one of the most influential women in tech. Everyone sees what I saw from the beginning. And what's that? That you're extraordinary. Kaylani's breath caught. Hyun-seok? I know all the reasons this is a bad idea, he said quietly. I know what people will say. I know how it could complicate everything we've built. But I can't keep pretending I don't feel this. That every time you walk into a room, I don't forget what I was thinking. That I don't look for you first thing every morning. That the best part of building this company isn't the success, it's building it with you. Tears gathered in Kalani's eyes. You don't understand what you're asking me to risk. Then tell me, make me understand. I've spent my entire life being underestimated, being told I wasn't enough, not smart enough, not polished enough, not white enough, not thin enough, not perfect enough. Her voice cracked. I finally have something that's mine, respect that I earned, a reputation built on my work. If we do this, if we cross this line, I risk losing all of that. People will say I manipulated you, that I seduced you for money and power, and you'll still be the Korean billionaire who built an empire. But I'll be the black woman who used her body to get ahead. Anyone who says that is a fool. Maybe, but there are a lot of fools in the world, and I have to live in it. She wiped at her eyes. I can't do this. I'm sorry. She walked away, leaving Hyun-seok alone on the balcony, his heart fracturing in his chest. The months after that night were torture. Hyun-seok and Kaelani maintained a professional distance that felt like a wall of ice between them. They spoke only about business. They avoided being alone together, and every day the unsaid words hung heavy in the air. Revive Solutions continued to grow. They expanded internationally, bringing clean energy and water to communities in Africa, South America, and Southeast Asia. The company's valuation hit $500 million, then $700 million. Hyun-seok's family became more insistent about his personal life. His mother flew to Chicago, bringing photos of potential brides. He sat through an awkward dinner where she outlined which families would be most advantageous to align with. You've rebuilt your reputation, she said in Korean. Now it's time to secure your legacy with a proper marriage. I'm not interested in an arranged marriage, Mother. I'm not suggesting arrangement. I'm suggesting you be strategic. Find a suitable woman from a good family. Someone who understands our culture and can help you navigate both worlds. What if I've already found someone? His mother's eyes sharpened. Who? It doesn't matter. You wouldn't approve. Is she Korean? No. His mother's face closed off. Then you're right. I don't approve. After everything you've been through, you want to add more complication to your life? More scandal? She's not a scandal. She's the reason I have a company at all. His mother paused, understanding dawning. The black woman, your business partner. Hyun-seok's jaw tightened. Her name is Kalani. I don't care what her name is. This is unacceptable. Our family has standards. Your standards nearly cost me everything. Kalani saved me when everyone else, including you, had written me off. I'm your mother. I want what's best for you. Then you should want Kalani, because she's the best person I've ever known. His mother left Chicago the next morning without saying goodbye. Kalani heard about the argument, office gossip being what it was. She found Hyun-seok in his office late that night, staring out at the city. You shouldn't have fought with your mother over me, she said quietly from the doorway. You were listening? Jin from accounting has a big mouth. She stepped into the office. You can't burn bridges with your family for something that isn't even happening between us. Maybe I'm tired of nothing happening. Hyun-seok. How long are we going to do this, Kalani? Pretend we don't feel what we feel? Ignore what everyone else already sees? As long as we have to. but her voice lacked conviction. I don't believe you. I think you're scared. Of course I'm scared. Kalani's composure cracked. I'm terrified. Because the more successful we get, the more people watch us, the more they judge. Do you know what the blogs say about me? That I'm your diversity hire, that you keep me around to make the company look progressive, that my equity is charity, not earned. Those people are idiots. Those idiots control the narrative. They control how I'm seen in this industry. I've worked so hard to be taken seriously. I can't throw that away. What if you didn't have to choose? What if we could have both, the company and us? That's not how the world works. Then maybe it's time we changed how the world works. Before she could respond, his phone rang. A number he didn't recognize. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. Mr. Hyun-seok? An unfamiliar voice asked. This is Jennifer Walsh from Tech Ventures Global. We've been following Revive Solutions closely. We'd like to discuss an acquisition. Hyun-seok put the phone on speaker. We're not interested in selling. Perhaps you should hear the offer first. $2 billion. Full acquisition, with both you and Ms. Kalani staying on as executives. The number hung in the air. $2 billion. More than Hyun-seok had lost. More than he'd ever imagined getting back. Kalani's eyes went wide. Her 20% would be worth $400 million. We'll need to discuss internally, Hyun-seok said carefully. Can you send over the preliminary terms? Of course, we'll be in touch. After he hung up, neither of them spoke for a long moment. $400 million, Kalani finally whispered. That's life-changing. My mother could retire. I could set up my whole family. I could... She trailed off, overwhelmed. We don't have to take it, Hyun-seok said. The company is worth more than money. Easy for you to say. You've had money. I haven't. Kalani looked at him, conflict clear on her face. This is everything I've worked for. I know. Over the next 2 weeks, they reviewed the acquisition terms. The offer was legitimate. Tech Ventures wanted to scale Revive Solutions globally, using their resources and network. Hyun-seok and Kalani would remain as co-presidents for at least 5 years, maintaining creative control. It was everything they could want professionally. But something felt wrong. Hyun-seok couldn't explain it. The numbers made sense. The terms were fair. The opportunity was massive. Yet every time he thought about signing the papers, his gut twisted. He found Kalani in the office late one night, 2 days before they were supposed to finalize the deal. She was crying, tears streaming down her face as she stared at her computer screen. What's wrong? He asked, immediately concerned. I'm reading reviews of our water systems, she said, her voice thick, from a village in Kenya. They're talking about how their children don't get sick anymore, how women don't have to walk 6 miles for clean water, how everything has changed. She looked up at him, her face streaked with tears. If we sell, will we still have this impact? Or will it become about profit margins and shareholder value? Hyun-seok sat down beside her, reading the testimonials on her screen. Stories of lives changed, communities transformed, real, tangible good in the world. I don't know, he admitted. I grew up in poverty, Kalani said quietly. I know what it's like to choose between food and electricity, to go to bed hungry, to feel invisible to the world. This company, it's the first time I've felt like I could actually change that for other people. Like my life could mean something bigger than just survival. Your life already means something. Does it? Or am I just another person chasing money? She wiped at her face. $400 million could change my family's life forever. But walking away from this work, I don't know if I could live with that. Hyun-seok took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. She didn't pull away. Then we don't sell, he said simply. That's easy for you to say. You don't need the money like I do. You're right. So I'll make you a deal. We turn down the acquisition, and I'll give you an additional 10% of my equity. That gives you 30% ownership, equal partnership in everything we build going forward. Kalani stared at him. Why would you do that? Because you're right. I've had privilege you haven't. This is me acknowledging that and trying to balance the scales. He squeezed her hand. And because I don't want to build this without you. Not just as an employee or even a partner, as an equal. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. I don't understand you. You could have everything. Money, status, a wife your family approves of. Why are you so determined to make this harder on yourself? Because everything I had before was empty. It meant nothing. It disappeared the moment things got hard. He cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing away her tears. But what we've built together, what we have between us, even when we're trying to ignore it, that's real. That matters. Hyun-seok. Her voice was barely a whisper. I love you, Kaylani. I love your strength and your passion and the way you see the world. I love how you fight for what matters and refuse to settle for less than you deserve. I love you, and I don't care who knows it or what they say about it. I can't. But even as she said it, she was leaning into his touch. You can. You're the bravest person I know. Don't be afraid of this. What if it ruins everything? What if it makes everything better? Kaylani closed her eyes, tears still streaming. I love you too. God help me. I love you so much it terrifies me. Then be terrified with me. We'll figure it out together. This time when he pulled her close, she didn't resist. She wrapped her arms around him and held on like he was the only solid thing in a shifting world. They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other in the quiet office, the city lights twinkling below. They turned down the acquisition the next day. The business press called them foolish. Investors questioned their judgment. But Hyun-seok and Kaylani didn't care. They had something more valuable than $2 billion. They had purpose, they had impact, they had each other. Going public with their relationship was harder. The gossip blogs had a field day. The think pieces wrote themselves. Some praised them as a modern love story. Others accused Kaylani of manipulation, and Hyun-seok of having a savior complex. Kaylani's fears had been right. The criticism was vicious and often racist. She was called everything from a gold digger to much worse. The comments on articles about her made Hyun-seok's hands shake with rage. How do you handle it? He asked one night after a particularly nasty hit piece. Kaylani was curled up on the couch in his apartment, reading through emails on her tablet. She looked up, her expression weary but determined. I remember who I am and what I've accomplished. I remember that their words say more about them than me. And I remember that I've survived worse than internet trolls. She set down the tablet. My whole life, people have tried to tell me I don't belong. In wealthy spaces, in tech, in boardrooms. Now they're saying I don't belong with you. But you know what? I do belong. Everywhere I've fought to be, and I'm not going anywhere. Hyun-seok crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. You're incredible. I know, she said, and despite everything, there was a smile in her voice. His family remained difficult. His mother refused to speak to him. His father sent disapproving emails. Extended relatives called to express their disappointment. But Hyun-seok stood firm. Kaylani had stood by him when he had nothing. He would stand by her now, against anyone and everyone. Kaylani's family, by contrast, embraced him warmly. Her mother, a sharp-eyed woman who reminded him strongly of Kaylani herself, looked him up and down at their first meeting and said, You hurt my daughter, and I don't care how much money you have. Understood? Understood, Hyun-seok had replied, meaning it completely. Her father, quieter but no less protective, had pulled him aside later. Kaylani's been taking care of herself since she was young. She doesn't need anyone. So if you're here, make sure it's because you add to her life, not because you need something from her. She adds to my life in ways I can't even articulate, Hyun-seok had said honestly. I just hope I can do the same for her. Her father had nodded slowly. Then you might be all right. A year into their relationship, Revive Solutions hit $1 billion in valuation. The company that had started with scraps and determination was now one of the most valuable social impact enterprises in the world. They'd brought clean energy to over 1 million people, clean water to even more, and they were just getting started. At the celebration party, Hyun-seok watched Kaylani give a speech to their employees. She spoke about the importance of staying true to their mission, of measuring success not just in dollars, but in lives changed. Her voice rang with conviction. her presence commanding the room. She was a force of nature, and she was his. After the party, he took her to the same balcony where she'd once rejected him. "Why are we here?" she asked, confused. "Because this is where you told me all the reasons we couldn't be together," Hyun-suk said. "And I want to make new memories here. Better ones." He dropped to one knee, pulling out a small velvet box. Kalani's hands flew to her mouth, her eyes going wide. "A year ago, you told me you were scared of what people would say," Hyun-suk said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "And you were right to be scared. They said terrible things. They still do. But you faced that fear and chose to be with me anyway. You're the bravest, strongest, most incredible woman I've ever known. You saved my company. You saved my life. And if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you." "Kalani, will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face. "People will say I'm marrying you for money." "Let them say it. We'll know the truth." "Your family will be furious." "They'll come around, and if they don't, that's their loss." "It won't be easy." "Nothing worth having ever is. You taught me that." Kalani laughed through her tears. "You're using my own words against me." "Is it working?" She pulled him to his feet, cupping his face in her hands. "Yes, you stubborn, wonderful man. Yes, I'll marry you." Hyun-seok slipped the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. Just like them, the engagement announcement made headlines. The reactions were predictably mixed. But Hyun-seok and Kaelani had learned to tune out the noise. They had each other. They had a company changing the world. They had a future they were building together, on their own terms. And as they faced their future together, Hyun-suk thought about that boardroom full of mocking men. About his bankruptcy, about his shame. They'd laughed at the bankrupt Korean billionaire. But he'd had the last laugh, because he'd lost everything and gained what actually mattered. Love, purpose, a partner who made him better. And together, they'd built an empire that would outlast them both, changing lives around the world. Revive Solutions hit $2 billion in valuation the following year. Then $3 billion. The company went public, making both Hyun-seok and Kaelani billionaires in their own right. But the money was never the point. It was fuel for the mission, resources to expand their impact. Kaelani became one of the most prominent Black women in tech, a role model for young girls who looked like her and dreamed of making a difference. She spoke at conferences worldwide, started a scholarship fund for underprivileged students, and never, not once, apologized for her success or her love. Hyun-seok's mother eventually came around. She looked at Kalani with something like respect and said in halting English, "You are good for my son. I was wrong." It wasn't a complete reconciliation, but it was a start. Years later, when Forbes did a cover story on them, the reporter asked what the secret to their success was. Kalani and Hyun-seok had looked at each other and smiled. "We bet on each other," Kalani said simply, "when everyone else was betting against us." "And we never stopped fighting," Hyun-suk added, "for the company, for the mission, for each other. We never stopped." The article was titled "The Billion-Dollar Love Story." It wasn't quite accurate. Their love was worth far more than money could measure, because at the end of the day, they'd learned that the real wealth wasn't in bank accounts or stock valuations. It was in partnership, in shared purpose, in building something together that mattered. They'd started with nothing but determination and faith in each other, and that had been more than enough. It had been everything. Did this story captivate you? Do you want more powerful love stories about strong women who change everything? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our next upload. Drop a comment below telling us what you loved most about Kaelani and Hyun-suk's journey. Sayat.